On today's episode of The Gallop, we interview Cal Poly's athletic director, Don Oberhelman. We discuss topics ranging from his career to the new landscape of college athletics and what's new across Cal Poly. We also give updates on football and soccer. It's great to be back, and let's get into the episode.
Coming to you from the sidelines of Mustang Memorial Field,
the outfield of Baggett Stadium,
the stands of Mott Athletic Center,
the home of 21 Division I teams, 4 current Big West champions, and thousands of the fans of the green and gold.
This is The Gallop.
Here on The Gallop, we are highlighting the best of Mustang sports, featuring student athletes competing at the height of their abilities and giving you the exclusive on Cal Poly athletics.
Every other week, we will update you on the biggest headlines in Cal Poly sports and spotlight the athletes and coaches that represent our Mustangs.
I'm Nick Bandanza.
And I'm Matthew Ho.
And you're listening to The Gallop.
Brought to you by KCPR 91.3 and Mustang News Sports.
Welcome back to The Gallop, the first episode of fall 2024. Boys, we're back. I'm here with Matthew Ho and Anthony Molleson. Boys, how are we doing?
Good to be back. First episode of the year, week 3 of the quarter. It's been a good start to the year. So, Anthony, how about you?
Oh, I'm doing great. Happy to be back in beautiful San Luis Obispo. A little bummed I didn't get to be on the first interview, but happy to be doing this, and that interview turned out great. So stay tuned for that, everyone. We have some good stuff to get into, a lot of sports going on.
Yeah, I know. It's a weird feeling, all three of us being fourth years now, kind of in our last run here at Cal Poly and last run with Cal Poly Athletics. So I think it was cool. We have Don Oberhelman, the Cal Poly Athletic Director. I've had kind of talks with him before, interviews, this and that. I know, Matt, you have as well. But it was cool to hear his perspective on Cal Poly and overall just athletics and college athletics and overall, because Cal Poly has a weird niche spot in it, as we're not that big of a school, so we're not leading any of the charges. But then again, we're not getting the huge change like you see from smaller, like mid-major schools like San Jose State or Fresno. So we're kind of caught in a weird area, and it was cool to hear his, kind of perspective on that.
Yeah, I think we win the Big West Commissioners Cup last year, first time in school history, set a record in terms of the amount of points scored. And then in the backdrop of all this, we have, the House versus NCAA settlement. We have all these other court cases. We have the NIL kind of, taking hold and the collectives and transfer portal. And those are all things that kind of work against the mission of, Cal Poly Athletics in terms of them prioritizing, broad-based sports, and, not just football and men's basketball, but, looking at all the other quote-unquote non-revenue sports and success in the classroom, whereas at other schools that's just not become a priority anymore, which is that's fine, that's their business model. But Cal Poly's niche, I think the amount of schools within that are going to become less and less over time, which sucks to see. College athletics is changing dramatically. Who knows what this is going to look like in 5 to 10 years.
Yeah. Sacramento State's been kind of Cal Poly in the same realm forever. Now they're trying to take the next step up to a bigger school. And so it was interesting. So stay tuned to hear kind of the ins and outs on how these discussions go, how deep, how much athletic directors talk to one another. I think that was one big takeaway I had from the interview, was he was like, I just called I talk to Davis AD every day. I talk to Sac State AD all the time. I talk to this AD all the time. So it's cool how they have like their own little group going on, like a little community between all the ADs, and they're pushing these decisions all across college athletics.
Which makes sense too, because it's just such a specific niche role. Of course you can equate it to being like the CEO of a company, but even then it's still very different than a regular, whatever LLC, whatever company that you're the head of, because it's like, at the same time, you're trying to be successful. Your goal isn't necessarily profits per se, depending on the school. There's also the mission like, hey, you're working with almost adults, but
kids at the end of the day
to some extent. Kids coming out of high school, still pursuing an education. So it's a very specifically American thing. So it makes sense why you can probably relate to a lot of the other athletic directors too.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, all these schools are helping each other out. I mean, he hit on in the interview about how Cal Poly needs UC Santa Barbara. UC Santa Barbara needs Cal Poly. That rivalry is kind of fueling both of these schools, fueling attendance, and it's the same with all these other schools that come up on the schedule and in the same conference. They're all helping each other out. They're all creating an environment for fans where they actually care about who wins the matchup. If Cal Poly was playing a school that they beat every time, no one would care.
Yeah. You need similar universities helping similar universities, and he kind of alluded to a lot where in the bigger schools you're seeing no help. That schools are so selfish. So it was cool and nice to know as a Cal Poly, about to be Cal Poly alum, Cal Poly athletic fan.
Wow.
Yeah, it's weird to say, but like it's good to know that there's relationships between like-minded schools like Santa Barbara that's still persisting, and that they're on the same journey and same goals. So they have one another. And Davis, San Diego, a lot of these schools get thrown into that same grouping.
Yeah.
For sure.
So speaking of rivalries, men's soccer,
We
UCSB finally won. So men's soccer beat UC Santa Barbara when they were the number 13 ranked team here at home. So every year they play twice. So this was the non-league matchup for men's soccer. Oh no, it was
non-conference.
It was a non-conference that we won here. So we beat Santa Barbara 2-0 here in SLO. Then a week later, we went to Santa Barbara and tied in Big West Conference play 0-0, which honestly is still a really good result. I know talking to players afterwards, they were loving that they won this game, but hey, how do you guys think you're going to do in 1 week? A lot of them were like, I don't know. It's a different field, different environment. It's at their place. So even getting a 0-0 draw there in conference, it's a really good result.
Yeah. In the UC Santa Barbara press release after the game, did you see the coach's comment?
No, I didn't see it. I saw
the
press.
The coach said something along the lines of this was like the worst time to like play our worst game of the season. Coming into this type of matchup, like you also like there's just another level of energy you kind of need in that type of game. So he was kind of alluding to that fact that kind of saying, oh, we are the better team, but we just didn't play bad. But then we ended up drawing at their place. Yeah. So
you're wrong. You're wrong. Yeah. I mean, that's the same coach I think 2 years ago here at Cal Poly ran onto the middle of the field to argue a call with the ref in the middle of play. So he's not accustomed to kind of spewing out his emotions. Probably not that controlled.
Yeah, that's just crazy. You would put that in your own like game press release from your own communications department. Like that's I don't know, because that could definitely backfire on you when it kind of did to an extent.
Yeah, and Cal Poly's just been rolling. I mean, they can't admit that they just got beat. I think Cal Poly now at 7 straight games without a loss.
Yeah. Beat Davis in the midweek game to go. So we're 1 win in conference, 1 draw in conference. So we're up. I think we're number 4 in conference after the first week.
Says we're tied for first on courtesy of Mustang News after the second blue-green
I think
game.
I don't know if that's fully
we might
updated.
have to fact check.
It might not be fully updated yet from the games this past week. But still a great result and kind of a really good start to conference play for a team that we somewhat had question marks last year. Didn't go to best. This is now year 1 of a new coach. And so to see the fire, talking to guys who are really reporting on the team right now, they're saying that the environment at practice is something they hadn't seen in a couple years. That guys are fully bought into the new program, to the new style of play. And so that's really encouraging to see, because realistically our recruiting isn't at the top of the Big West. So to get these results and knowing that, hey, there's still room to grow in recruiting, it's really encouraging.
And we're playing still with a lot of underclassmen, some true freshmen. I think our 2 starting I might be designated as strikers, they might be called midfielders, but Quinn Mahoney and Finn Linus, freshmen and redshirt freshmen, and that was our front 2 right there. And Finn drew a penalty that led to the second goal off a pass from Quinn Mahoney, who's been playing great this season. And then the first penalty, I'm trying to remember. I don't remember who drew it, but I remember, Captain Nate Cawley.
It was another freshman, Colin Pierce,
who drew the penalty.
Yeah, who grew up in San Jose, California.
Oh, so you know about him.
So I know. Okay. I don't know him, but I know he has older like friends that I was friends with and stuff. So I've heard of him, and I know he's been really, really good. He tore up kind of the South Bay area soccer scene for a while growing up. So he's a really encouraging player. It's really cool to see. That is the only major sports. Football's fun. Baseball's really fun. Basketball's fun to go to, but that game is unlike anything else.
And the students.
Because of the students. Everyone is there. It's nothing like that in all of college soccer. Fun.
Hey, in fact checking, they are tied for first with 4 points.
They are,
it's a 4-way tie between Bakersfield, Fullerton, UCSB, and us. Okay. And you hit on it a bit earlier, but talking about like just the vibe around this team. I went to a practice for the package I was doing on the blue-green game, and it's just like they seem like they're having a lot of fun. They were playing music literally the entire practice. They were like, one of their drills was basically a relay race between the teams, and then like loser had to do 10 push-ups or something like that, and it was pretty fun. It was literally them just running back and forth, dribbling around a pole, running across the field, and then like passing to their teammate. And at the very end, it was the first person to get a practice jersey on. Correct. Was the team who won.
Yeah,
Oh, that's fun.
Just fun.
And there was two teams going in, and one of the teams, they like had the practice jersey on, but it was backwards. And then they're like, no. And then the other team came from behind and got the dub, and they were all going crazy after that. Yeah. And it was just stuff like that. It seems like they're having a good time. It's a young team. There's a lot of energy. Definitely positive momentum going on in that program for sure.
Yeah, and I think you get lost soccer. A lot of people, maybe not understand how grueling the season is. It's a long season, and it's a very physical game. And so I think it's for times like this where I know in past years, you see Cal Poly kind of wear down throughout the season. And so if you bring a lot of life, a lot of youth into the team, into the culture, I think you might see the opposite of that, where guys are fresh, excited, ready to play as the year continues.
Yeah,
for sure.
Maybe we can pivot now to women's soccer, who kind of has the opposite sort of deal right now. They a lot more senior heavy. This team's been here a while. Always really competitive in this conference, but right now, they're struggling right now. Yeah. 3-8-3 on the season. I think they're definitely a better team than what their record shows. It's just the results have been coming. It's in Forselles right now. It's Alex Crozier's final season. The only head coach in the history of the women's soccer program at Cal Poly. He was actually the club coach from 1979 to 1983 when he was a player here. Went to the Bay Area, was a coach there. And then when the team Cal Poly decided to have a women's soccer program for the Division II side, he came back, to coach here. Funny enough, too, what I found out today, he met his wife actually so he was coaching the club team. She was on that club team. That's how they met. Oh, wow. They're married now. Yeah. But yeah, so he was the coach after time in Division II, transition to Division I. He's been the only coach in the history of our program. That's all we've ever known. So, and he's been the longest standing member of our athletic department by far.
Yeah. He has the most wins in Big West history in terms of women's soccer. He's tied for the most Big West titles as a coach in women's soccer. So, and legend. It's a legend. And I think this year, you're 1-3-1 right now in conference play. You're behind the 8 ball by a lot. But we've also seen the last 2 years this team start somewhat slow in Big West play and then come back and win. Last year winning the regular season conference title altogether. And so obviously you've dug yourself a big hole here, and a big hole with a kind of a veteran-led team, which is a little surprising. But I've seen over the last couple of years this team dig themselves out of other holes and make a run at it. And I kind of expect this team to do the same.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for them. I was talking to Coach Crozier before they faced off against Irvine and was just kind of asking, Irvine's been the team that's knocked Cal Poly out 2 of the last 3 years. Was just kind of asking him, hey, is there anything extra going into this matchup? He's like, look, there's something extra going in every game from here on out. We need pretty much every game from here on out. It's a must win with where we're at in conference. And since that point, they've fallen to Irvine. They drew
to Long Beach.
And that only is going to heighten that. And they also lost one of their key starters, Emily Lieber, tore ACL right before the Irvine game. And that's just a major loss for them. One of their leaders in minutes, starting forward, very important to their possession aspect of the game. Yeah. That's going to hurt them a lot for sure. I think she's only a junior, so she'll still have one more year next year. Yeah.
But it's still a big loss.
Really unfortunate loss, for this year.
Yeah, and I think they're going to have to rely on other players like Annalisa Connor and other forwards. They might have to pull from this younger freshman, sophomore class, which they haven't kind of throughout the year. So I think you're going to see, I would hope, maybe some changes up front because they've had a goal-scoring issue.
Yeah, definitely. Fun fact about Ainsley Connor. So her mom, actually, Kathy Cordoza Connor, I just found this out today, was actually on the first team that Crozier coached on. Oh. And then her daughter is now on the last team that Crozier will coach.
Wow. That's
crazy. Yeah.
I know. Don talked about, Oberhelman talked to us, on the interview. He talks about how that program specifically is a family program. Mm-hmm. That you see a lot of, family members or really close friends or people that grew, coach with Crozier bringing their children and sending them to Cal Poly to play. So that's really cool, and it's a really cool environment that Crozier has cultivated over the last 20 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully they can find some momentum at the end of their season. You would hate to see them go out kind of the way the season started, especially in Crozier's last year.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's all we got for women's soccer. How about we talk about some American football?
And I would
like that transition.
I love that transition. And I would first preface to say, and a more encouraging start than we've had the last couple of years under Coach Wolf.
Oh, for sure. They've been competitive in pretty much every game.
Stanford, first half. But
Stanford was a competitive first
Stanford.
half. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that is also Stanford.
Yeah, that's
That's an
ACC school.
Well, saying it's Stanford actually can kind of go a lot of ways because they've been notoriously bad for the FBS level. But for us, it's like,
yes,
hey,
that
is
still a big step up in competition.
Christian McCaffrey, Andrew Luck, they produced some talent.
12 years ago, yeah. But you get
the
wins
David
over.
Shaw era.
we were their first home win in like a couple seasons.
Yeah,
right?
we were.
Yeah.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was not. But
I did not know
we
that.
bounced back, beat Division II Western Oregon handily, kind of 31.
Handily, kind of, but they outgained us in total yards.
That is true. That is true. But I'm going
Garbage
to look at the
time.
positive of garbage time, 31-14. And I'll do say the explosive plays were there against them, and it kind of led over to Northern Colorado, where we have an explosive 97-yard touchdown.
To Briscoe.
Yeah, to Briscoe, and we win that game 28-7. Balling. A little context on the QB for those who weren't keeping up. We had Bo Kelly start the year at quarterback. Got pulled. I forget if it was because of injury or
it was Northern Colorado. He played the first drive, and they put Jaden Jones in.
Yeah, they bring him in. Jaden Jones comes in, who's been at Cal Poly a couple years, coming off of ACL injury last year, and then comes in, leads it all the way down the field, and he's been the quarterback since. So he was a quarterback against Western Oregon. Against Northern Colorado, and then won the job and was the starting quarterback for Idaho State, where he then gets injured. Bo Kelly comes back in for kind of passing down and running the normal offense. And then there's also Richie Watts, who's become basically a Wildcat-only quarterback. I think he's thrown 2 or 3 passes.
One of them was a passing touchdown.
One of them was a goal line package against Northern Colorado. So now I would assume coming up against next game, UC Davis, you're going to see, again, a kind of trade-off where Bo Kelly's running the majority of the offense, but you see Richie Watts come in as a running quarterback, as that Wildcat option.
Yeah, I expect a heavy dose of Richie Watts runs, especially once they get inside the 20.
Yeah.
I think he had 2 or 3 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, 2.
2?
2 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah. And he would have had 3 if he didn't slip on one of them, and then Briscoe took in the reverse the next play after that.
Yeah.
I remember that play.
But it's encouraging. It's encouraging. I think the level of play, we don't seem overmatched on the field like we have in previous years. But looking at the schedule now, we kind of have a gauntlet.
It's brutal.
We play 1, 2, 3, 4 ranked teams, and a University of Idaho team which isn't ranked.
No, Idaho's ranked.
Oh, Idaho is ranked. They've been fluctuating. They were in and out.
Dude, they're like 10, I thought, 10 or 12.
I know. So then we 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 out of our last 6 games are all against.
And Weber State's not. Is Weber State ranked?
Yes,
they are.
Yes,
who's the team that's not ranked?
Northern Arizona.
I thought they were 25.
And NAU was ranked.
NAU was ranked,
and they beat Sacramento State by 34-16.
So anyway,
who was ranked?
It is
10.
a gauntlet.
The rankings are weird in
it
FCS.
Is rankings is multiple rankings. There's NCAA rankings. There's also a
Coaches
writers
poll.
ranking, a coaches.
It's just
poll.
coaches poll, and then there's like some.
There's a writers poll.
I don't think is it writers.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So let's just be
Why
safe.
did they put me on that?
All the games left are against top 30 FCS teams.
Yeah.
Let's just say that.
Yes, and you're looking at teams like UC Davis who can easily win an FCS title. University of Montana, always an amazing program. University of Idaho, those who watch other college football know they gave University of Oregon their run for their money at the beginning of the year. Sacramento State, who's been a really good team
Beat Stanford
over the
last year.
Yeah, beat Stanford last year. Been a really perennial kind of powerhouse in FCS over the last 5 years. And so it'll be interesting to see, as a Cal Poly fan, where we stack up against those type of talents. I think it would be kind of very, very optimistic to think we're going to win a lot of those games. But I think it relatively we can view kind of how we're stacking up, how we're playing against those teams in the light of where this program's going.
And like I said, NAU just beat Sacramento State 34-16, and then Weber State just beat Montana, who was ranked, like, I think top 5 at the time.
Yeah.
Hey, that shows those teams are beatable, though.
There, it would be good. I'm saying, as my last year here at Cal Poly, this is the best team we've had. This is the best team we've put on the field in the last 4 years.
I would agree.
There with good talent on the field.
I've been thinking about this for a while, and you think about all the players that have left our program, and I've talked to you guys about this too, right? We can start in the short term. David Meyer just left Cal Poly last year, grad transfer now to UC Davis, leading UC Davis in tackles, and I think tied for first in interceptions for that team. 35 tackles, 2 interceptions. He was our starting linebacker, all Big Sky type player for us here. Sam Heward just left University of Utah. I think if he stayed here another year, he would have had a pretty good season. He put up numbers last year.
He's not playing right now.
Yeah, he's not playing.
Third string. Cam Rising went down and he still didn't get put in.
Really?
Yeah.
Cam Rising missed 2 weeks, and I forget their second string quarterback, but I was looking forward to
Zach
it.
Wilson's younger brother.
That's
the NFL quarterback.
Oh, really?
Wilson is his younger brother, who is 2 years younger. He's a redshirt freshman.
Wow. Okay. Well,
which is just interesting,
Well, there was probably some money,
Yeah, and that is the new reality.
Yeah.
Like we talked about with Don, how Cal Poly isn't very interested in expanding. It seemed like their NIL funds, they're not going to become a pay-for-play type school. He was very, very adamant on that to us, that Cal Poly, you come here to play athletics, you come here to get an education, come here for the community, you come here for the opportunities. If you're coming looking for a bag and then leaving if you don't get that bag, Don was very apparent in saying that, hey, that's not what we want our athletics program as a whole to be.
Yeah, they'll wish you the best, but that's just not what they're looking to do.
And there was a few more names I was getting into. Josh Cuevas, who was supposed to be our first episode of the Gallop.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember was it freshman year or sophomore year?
It was
or sophomore
year.
It was our sophomore. So he was supposed to be our first guest on the Gallop. We were in the middle of producing it, editing it to get it out. Transfers to the University of Washington, a week or two after we talked to him from University of Washington. Now he's at the University of Alabama with Kalen DeBoer. Javion Cole was starting cornerback for us, true freshman, had 2 picks in one game against the University of San Diego in a comeback win. After one season, when Baldwin went to Arizona State to be the offensive coordinator, he goes to San Jose State. Went from San Jose State to the University of Texas now. So just imagine, and there's Brian. Oh, and sorry, one more guy. Donovan Saunders went from us last year, Texas A&M now, cornerback. And then I think honestly, against Idaho State, that's what kind of gave us problems. It was the secondary. We didn't have the size or experience to match up with Idaho State's receivers. I think me and Anthony were talking about on the sideline. The Idaho State's receivers were big receivers.
They were huge. Fredrickson, that guy was like 6'5" and just boxing our corners out on the second.
And we were playing a lot of younger guys who are not they're probably under 6 feet, under 6 foot. So. It's like, imagine we had a Donovan Saunders. Imagine we had Javion Cole. Even, Josh Cuevas at tight end right now. Sam at quarterback.
You're really looking at a different team, a much more elevated team.
Oh, yeah. We just have so much more talent at all these different positions. And I don't know, who knows what that team would have looked. That's like 3 guys who are playing 4 guys that's playing high major football day. Football now, But yeah, with all that being said, we can talk a little bit more about state of college athletics, Cal Poly, all Cal Poly things with Don Oberhelman in our interview coming up next. Hey everyone, welcome back to our first edition of the Gallop podcast in this new academic year. Really excited to have Cal Poly Athletic Director Don Oberhelman joining us. Don, thanks for coming on. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Yeah, and as people can tell on the video, on the audio, we're in the new Comer Ford Pavilion. Here's the new tennis facility, which is state of the art. And as you can see on the video, so please go to YouTube and find it. You're looking out over the second deck that looks over all the tennis courts and for game day. So how big is that for the program, for just Cal Poly Athletics to have this new facility here?
Yeah, it's pretty unbelievable. I mean, you can already see the impact just in the short week that we've been in this building, the impact it's going to have on the students. Like their eyes are big when they walk into this thing, and they're so grateful to have this. They did not have really a home to speak of. We had a little shed over there that they got to meet in, but that was about it. Yeah. This gives them a true locker room, a restroom. We didn't even have restrooms out here. We had to go to Mott Athletic Center to use a restroom, so you got to call timeout and run in and run back out, and it happens during those long matches. So to just have access to that is going to be tremendous, and then how it's going to impact recruiting, I think, for us is going to be huge. You walk in and you see this, and you're like, wow, you guys have an opportunity to be really, really good, and we think that's the case. In this conference, in the Big West Conference, for a number of years, it's been Cal Poly and Santa Barbara pretty much on both men's and women's side, year in and year out. This year, the women won the conference title. We'd like to be consistently at the top. Santa Barbara's making some investments too, but we feel like we can get to a point that this isn't just a one-bid league, and I think this building's going to help us secure those at-large opportunities for us and continue to climb in the rankings. We need to be top 40 on both men's and women's tennis in the national rankings, and this is going to help us do that.
Yeah, and with that, you mentioned the UC Santa Barbara Cal Poly. We just had the blue-green game the other day. Bit of a rivalry there. I mean, how often are you guys looking at each other? What is Santa Barbara up to right now? Or are they peeping out what you guys are doing too?
Yeah, I don't think it's quite up to that level. We need to partner with them better on some things. Like just playing the soccer match had some long, drawn-out conversations about kick times and when and all that. So we play down there next week on ESPNU or ESPN2. It's going to be a terrific opportunity for our program to get some linear television exposure, if you will. But we need to have a healthy rivalry with Santa Barbara, and I think we're pretty well there now. 5 years ago, I don't think it was very healthy. Pre-COVID, it was definitely not a healthy rivalry. There was a lot of anger, there was a lot of name-calling, there was a lot of vulgarity, and then, of course, we all know about the throwing things onto the field, including tortillas, which I think we finally have been able to curb that behavior.
I noticed that.
And it's been very positive. The match Saturday was unbelievable. It was an incredible atmosphere. It was a great rivalry atmosphere, and that's what we need in all our sports with them.
Yeah, I noticed that walking into the stadium Saturday, moving over to the game, that there weren't tortillas. I've been accustomed, I'm a fourth year here, accustomed to basically half the pitch is just filled with tortillas. I walked in on Saturday and there was nothing. Was that a directive, like a thing from you, maybe from the administration to curb that? And do you think that's happening at Santa Barbara as well? It's kind of a move forward in the rivalry?
Yeah, I think so. I know they're doing some of the same things that we have done. So we started a very active campaign about 4 or 5 years ago to eliminate that. For a variety of reasons. There's some people that view it as culturally offensive. There's some people that view it as offensive to homeless and food insecure people and things like that it's wasteful. I think it's just poor sportsmanship on top of that. It's not a good look. It's dangerous. It's a safety issue. It's disrespect. I mean, there's nothing good about it. So we had some partners on campus that helped us with the campaign to eliminate that. And over years, we got to a point that this year, I think you guys probably noticed, you didn't see any social media or anything from us about tortillas or about not throwing things on the field, because I almost felt like we're to a point now, if we start doing that, all we're doing is reminding students of, oh, hey, wait, what's this tortilla thing? Are we supposed to throw tortillas?
And the rebellious aspect.
Correct. I probably would have done it too, So we made a conscious effort this year. Okay, we're not going to say anything. Let's just play the match and see how it goes. And it worked. I think our strategy worked pretty well. And I think we're to a point now that we can play it back on that prime time weekend time. So this year we played Saturday at 3. Last year we played Sunday, I think at 5 or 6. The year before, I think we also played on a Sunday. But prior years, it has been a Friday, Saturday, 7 p.m.
Kickoff
thing. And I would like to get back to that point. And I really think we're pretty close to being able to do that.
I want to take a few steps back, talk about, maybe your career a little bit, how you ended up as an athletic director. So, how did you get into collegiate athletics? Take us back to that time.
Boy, is that a long, long story. So I'll keep it as short as I can. So I had a friend of mine that was working in the NFL right out of college, and I went and worked at a bank in Florida and really didn't enjoy banking at all. And he was loving what he was doing. He got his master's in sport management at Wichita State in Kansas, where I'm from. And I said, well, I probably need to do that. So I decided to go back to graduate school. And at the time, I thought I wanted to work in the NFL. And as I got through, my first semester there, I realized I did not want to do that. That I had a passion for college athletics. I had a passion for education. There are some certain things that you don't get to do in the NFL when it comes to teaching opportunities and things like that. So started working in college athletics right at Florida State, and then somewhere around 26 years old, I had the wild idea that I wanted to be a Division I athletic director. So I've focused on that my whole career in terms of just trying to grow my sphere of influence, if you will. So I had 4-year, 5-year stops as I was growing my career and developing, which is probably pretty common. Texas A&M, Florida State, Southern Mississippi, and then San Diego State. And then when I got to San Diego State, I was the deputy athletic director. So after a few years, I started to think about what's next. And the president there, President Stephen Weber, and I had a great relationship, and he made it his mission to try to help me get to that. So I had a pretty specific set of criteria. One of them is I'm not going to live where it snows. I had to have baseball and football. Those are my two passion sports are football and baseball, and I really wanted that. And then on the other side, I wanted high academics. Yeah. And a few jobs had come open here and there that I wasn't really all that interested. And then all of a sudden, Cal Poly came open, and that checked every box for me. I'd been through here before and knew the beauty of this space, didn't know much about the campus itself. So once I saw everything, really the same reason you guys are here, why I'm here. I fell in love with the exact same things that you guys fell in love with. And to be honest, when I first took the job, I probably thought it'd be 4 or 5 years and maybe look at the next thing. And lo and behold, after 14, I'm absolutely not interested in anything else. This is a place where I fit very, very well, and a place that I want to be.
14 years, and then last year, for the first time in Cal Poly's history, we win the Commissioner's Cup. And for those who don't know the Commissioner's Cup, it is the cup, the award given to the best overall athletic program in the Big West. What does that mean for a staple of this athletic department for all the programs?
It was an unbelievable achievement. So it really took everybody pulling their weight. So every single sport we have at Cal Poly is in the Big West, with the exception of football and wrestling. Yeah. And we only had one team that finished below third in the conference. Like, that's incredible, just across the board success. And I thought we had a pretty good shot a lot of years, and we come in second. We've come in second probably 10 times in the Commissioner's Cup. This year, to have won it, though, and we won it with the most points ever in the history of them measuring this, I think it's pretty awesome, and I think it's just a testament to everybody doing their job, everybody pulling their weight. The fascinating part of it, though, is so we won that, which purely measures your athletic success. We have a 93% graduation rate, which is also the best in the conference. So I really think right now we're honoring, we have our little tagline of athletic and academic excellence. Yeah. I just feel like in every possible way we're honoring that right now with the current crop of student athletes we have. They're so academically driven, but they're proving that they can get it done on the field, court, track, whatever their sport might have. They're just flat out getting it done. Track and field, winning all 4 championships you could possibly win, men's and women's cross country, men's and women's track and field, was just unbelievable thing to watch. We hadn't won a men's track and field title in probably 15 years. And to just demolish everybody the way we did was pretty incredible, and be able to host it right here. So I'm so pleased with where we are with all of those things. I feel like we have the best thing going in our conference, and one of the best things going we have in the United States with how we operate our program.
Is this something that's talked about? Is this something like the Commissioner's Cup? Do you talk with the coaches, with maybe people around, just Cal Poly within Mott, that, hey, this is something we want to win?
We have in the past, we've had so many years of second place finishes with it. We probably talked about it a little less the last few years. And then this year, when I saw the standings about where we were after the fall and then where we were after the winter, we started probably talking about it a little bit more because it really, we had a big lead.
Yeah.
We had a really, really big lead going into the spring, and it just kind of felt like, boy, if we can get tennis to do some good things, we can get track and field to do some good things, we've really got this thing. Yeah. We got the tiger by the tail, if you will, and we just extended the lead. I mean, in the past, we've tried to hang on. We've had a lead after winter, and we just try to hang on through the spring, and we've struggled to do that. This year, we extended that lead. Yeah. We blew everybody's doors off, and that was pretty phenomenal to see. So you'll probably hear us talk about it a little bit more, and you'll certainly hear President Armstrong talk a little bit more. He's already told me, he's like, you're going to get us another one next year, right? Yeah. Yes, sir. We will.
That's fun.
Yeah. And staying on the topic of, you guys are committed to broad-based athletics. That's kind of what Cal Poly is all about. But, you see nationwide, there was kind of a shift away from that where, a lot of the resources, and, finance, kind of controlled within, football, men's basketball. That's a lot of schools are kind of hanging their hat on that. I mean, what are your kind of thoughts on that direction?
Yeah, I think as an association, when I say the association, the NCAA, our collective 360 Division I schools, we've lost our way. We've completely lost our way, and we've forgotten why we do this. This should be an educational opportunity, and instead it's become all about the dollar. I heard somebody say this, that we used to be about transformational relationships with our students, and now many other schools are going to a transactional relationship with their student. What are you going to give me, and what am I going to give you? It's now transaction-based. I don't care what you can teach me. Yeah. Well, we've lost our way if that's the case. We should be in the education. We're in the Cal Poly's in the teacher-scholar model business, and I don't want that to change in our athletic program. So there's just some things that, and President Armstrong's talked about this a lot with me, there's some things that we're unwilling to do. And one of them is losing that. We want our student athletes to actually be students. Yeah. Shocking. They're admitted on a similar basis as our regular students. You go to some other academic universities like ours, that claim to be these top universities in the country, they're admitting anybody they want to be a student athlete, and they've got a major that they can hide them in and get them through, or they don't even have to take a math class. Yeah. We don't do that, and we're not going to do that. We want our student. You want to come here and be an engineer? You can be an engineer. I think you can play tennis and be an engineer. Yeah. You can do both. You can't do that at other places because they're not going to let you. So I really like where we are and how we're going to do things. We're going to let the money sort itself out at the Big Ten, SEC level. They'll get their stuff figured out at some point, but we're still waiting on a lot of different things. There's a lot of court cases we're tracking on right now, too, that we got to get sorted through as we plan what our future is going to look like.
Yeah, and so if we can't touch on some of those court cases where you're looking at in multiple different instances settlement money that then is being paid out either from the university or for the conference, or the Big West Conference, to prior athletes. How does Cal Poly have a plan? Is it tracking and has a plan for that? Yeah. And maybe what is it, and how are you guys going to maybe attack that issue?
Yeah, so we're currently doing forecasting in terms of what our budgets are going to look like for a lot of years going forward. So, for example, we're looking at a potential $10 million reduction in NCAA revenue for Cal Poly athletics, depending on how one of the cases go. Then there's 6 other cases behind it that we just aren't sure how that's going to go. We're getting advice, and certainly we're talking to all the lawyers that are involved with this stuff, but it's going to cost us, it's going to cost Cal Poly, it's going to cost everybody. I feel like it's a bit unfair to put a burden on the Big West Conference when we weren't part of making the rules that restricted earnings. Yeah. We also weren't restricting earnings because most of our student athletes aren't in that space. So we have plenty of NFL, Major League, we got all these different student athletes that can go on to the next level. Elijah Ponder being one, I think on our football team, he's going to be drafted at the end of this season. He wanted that transformational relationship, so he chose to stay and not take money to go somewhere else. That's the kind of student we want to work with, because we're not going to be able to pay him $200,000 that Texas A&M can do. So I have so much respect for him, But at the same time, I also think it's wholly, wholly unfair to hold us accountable for restricting somebody's ability to earn money. We've had a couple that have left because they got money, and that's unfortunate, but, you know, I respect their decision. They can do that. But I feel like us having to pay $10 million when we never were involved with that, either making the rule nor restricting fair trade, if you will, I think it's a terrible dynamic right now.
Do you think the smaller schools like Cal Poly, like the schools in the Big West, are being lost in the whole college athletic shakeup? That smaller schools are kind of just getting the trickle-down effect of what larger institutions, larger conferences are making decisions for?
Yeah, I absolutely do. I absolutely do believe that. I think it's sad and unfortunate. We're now to a every man for themselves mentality. Yeah. And every man meaning, you know, every school for themselves. We don't care what happens to another school as long as I get mine. Mm-hmm. That's a horrible way to operate. The NFL model has worked for a lot of years. That's why that is literally the best athletic product, I think, in the world right now is the NFL, because they play by a very strict set of rules that are, you have salary cap, a hard cap that's in place, allows small market, big market, doesn't matter, you can be competitive. And that makes everybody else better. That makes the big market team better because it is a great product. We're going to miss out on that, and I fear we're going to have 6 really good football programs in the country at the FBS level, 10 really good basketball programs, and that's going to be about it. And that's a shame because I think it's a much, much better product when there's 30 teams going into the NCAA tournament that can get to the Final Four, 40 teams can get to the Final Four. If we get to the point that those games are not competitive anymore, they're going to lose viewership even at the highest level. Yeah. And I think it's very short-sighted on their part.
Yeah. I mean, what kind of adjustments do you think, once the finances become, it becomes, we understand what's going to happen in the next couple of years. What kind of adjustments are, Cal Poly, but other small schools going to have to make in their departments? Yeah,
I think, to be honest, I think everybody's going to look at ways that we can save money. We're going to look at, and we're doing it right now. We're nibbling around the edges on a lot of our different sports about, can we eliminate some travel? Can we eliminate some flights? So instead of going to North Carolina for 2 matches, can we go to Oregon for 2 matches? Trying to save some money, but still give our student athletes the best experience that we can. Because you want to go on the road. You need to be able to travel and experience different things. But we're trying to really nibble around those edges the best we can. We've had some people say, well, you're kind of nickel and diming this. And absolutely, but it's called the March of Dimes for a reason. Dimes add up if you continue to get dimes. Yeah. So we're working with every single one of our sports. I fear for our Olympic sports a lot because I think even the biggest programs in the country are going to start looking around and saying, well, I need to invest more money in football and basketball, so I'm going to look at my track and field program. I'm going to look at swim dive. I'm going to look at tennis, whatever it might be. And I think we're going to lose a lot of student athlete opportunities just because of the dollar. Mm-hmm. I hate to say it, but it's purely based on that dollar that Texas A&M wants. Yeah. So they're going to have to look around and start thinking very carefully about, what's driving their dollar. And I dare say it's not going to be the Olympic sports.
Do you have an vision on how many years down the line this kind of foreseeable outcome is going to really be implemented?
It'll be a couple of years, I think, because it's going to take that long for the court cases to get settled out to see exactly who's losing what. Mm-hmm. So I can cry poor and say we're going to lose $10 million. The top of the SEC might lose 50. Yeah. Which I believe is fair. Yeah. You should lose 50. You guys did this. Yeah. So I think it depends on how that's going to shake out. So, but I think when it happens, it's going to come. It's going to come quick.
Did you envision this in your career?
I did not.
Started out.
This is one of the craziest things. We used to have this camaraderie in our profession. It may not just be our profession. It may be a lot of professions are going through this where we're not worried. We don't support each other anymore. We're just worried about ourselves. And we're worried about our own little program. So if I at Ohio State can get something over on them at Michigan, I'm going to do it. Mm-hmm. And I hate that way of thinking. I just think it's poor. Ohio State needs Michigan. Michigan needs Ohio State. You need each other. Mm-hmm. And you need each other to be pretty good. Without that, you lose everything. Yeah. If it becomes no contest, nobody wants to buy a ticket anymore. Now that dollar's gone. Mm-hmm. You were so worried about hoarding that dollar that you took from everybody else. Now everybody else, that dollar is going to disappear for you. And I see bad things on the horizon. I don't want to be, doom and gloom about it, but I think we're going down a bad pathway.
It's really real. It's really real. And the other part of it too, I believe the NCAA leadership as an association has been just horrible.
Yeah.
We've had no guidance, no direction, no support from the association we all agreed to be a part of. They're talking about a football commissioner for college football. I don't think that's a terrible idea, but the devil's in the details. How's it going to work? What authority are they going to have? And are they a leader? Do they have leadership? Do they have the ability to get everybody on board?
I mean, we have kind of all these things on the horizon with what is college athletics going to look like in the future. But I mean, right now, the next couple weeks for Cal Poly, I mean, I think they're slated for a lot of potential growth. I mean, you have this facility, you have the new women's soccer facility, the Madden Center on the horizon. I mean, how excited are you for those projects, coming up?
So I think one of the things we've done a really good job is in investing in. We've had pockets of donors and supporters that are very passionate about this sport and that sport. So I'll give you an example, the women's soccer situation. I couldn't be more pleased with where we are with that. We renovated our sports medicine center probably 7 or 8 years ago, and that was primarily on the backs of women's soccer alumni who had a great experience playing soccer here. And Crystal Slover's our director of sports medicine. She's been with us about 30 years. Alex Crozier is our head women's soccer coach. He's been with us about 30 years. And now we have women who have sent their daughters here to play and have the same experience they had, primarily with the same two people, Crystal and Alex.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how happy that makes me and how proud I am of that. When you send your child to try to get the same experience you had, you must have had an unbelievable experience.
Yeah.
So that was the same group that helped with the soccer renovation, obviously, and they've just got a beautiful space. The John Madden Football Center is the steel's coming out of the ground now. That is real. That is happening. We still got some heavy lifting to do in terms of what the donations are going to look like. I think we got about $15 million more to go, which isn't the easiest thing, but we will get there, which means we've raised about 35 to this point for it. That's going to be a game changer for our football program. We've had a couple of big sky schools like UC Davis have gotten ahead of us in facilities. Well, of course, they've gotten ahead of us on the field now too. We have to make this investment for the future of football here, and this is going to preserve football on our campus for a long, long, long time with this facility. It's an unbelievable investment. You guys have seen the north end zone as well. Yeah. Which is the Poly Partners Plaza. We love alliteration. The Poly Partners Plaza.
It was nice.
It's gorgeous.
It was.
It's cleaned up that whole concessions area. 4 years ago, all we had was a kind of a concession shed back there and selling hot dogs and whatnot, and a couple of beer tents. And that was about it. Now that has turned into a first-rate place to watch football. I like watching football and soccer from the end zone anyway. I just think it's a great way to watch how people move. And it's way easier to get a beer. It is a beer garden for our alumni. It's unbelievably cool, and that's when I retire someday, that's where I want to be. I want to be in there with my friends, I think. So that's going to be an unbelievable thing. And then, of course, this facility that we sit in now, this is a $10 million facility. People passionate about tennis, some tennis alumni, some people that are in the community that love tennis, some people that are alums that grew into tennis after they graduated and just love the game. My wife and I, this was our philanthropic project that we supported as well. So I love this building. It means a lot to me to have it. And I think it's going to be among the best in the country. Yeah. And certainly one of the best in California. I'll put this up against anything UCLA has in terms of this space. So it's going to allow us to be competitive for a very, very long time in these sports. And by investing in these sports, I think we're investing in the future of those sports. With everything we're up against with the NCAA, I look at this building, how's tennis going to be in 5 years after all this comes down? I look around and I'm like, tennis is going to be just fine. Tennis is going to be just fine. We're going to be really, really good in tennis.
Do you think Cal Poly or Big West schools as a collective, you talked to all the other athletic directors, of course, is there a sense that within the Big West that the focus isn't going to shift solely to football and basketball like we see in these other conferences? Or just basketball, yeah.
I hear
basketball,
you.
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, I think we're all pretty like-minded universities. A good 2/3 of us are pretty high academic achieving universities in our conference. And I just feel like we're aligned on what we're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. You know, I look at my colleague up at UC Davis. They're a rival for us in a lot of different ways. They're a similar university academically, similar majors, similar athletic programs in some ways. You know, we're not supposed to like each other very well. I talk to him probably almost every day about what we're doing, how we're doing it, how we can help each other, and it's a great partnership to have. But they don't want to lose. They have the same values we do in many, many ways. And we all like to say we're unique, we're the most unique thing out there and all these other things. And while we are unique, there are schools out there that we do have similar values with, and we have similar type students. You know, I would say a good number of students at Cal Poly also at some point looked at going to UC Davis as well.
Yeah,
and
I
vice,
was one
and vice
of them.
versa. Yeah, and vice versa. A lot of their students looked at us. So I feel like as long as we have institutional alignment with schools like UC Davis, I think we're going to be okay. If we are paired together in all things that we do, we're going to be just fine.
Yeah.
And then we're going to bring some other friends along with us, like UC Irvine and Santa Barbara and Long Beach State and others. I think we got a good core group of institutions right now, and we're right where we need to be. You know, we're all talking about. I keep getting calls about our conference alignment and all those things. Where are we going to be? And all this stuff. And my answer is, we're terrific, right where we are. Mm-hmm. Wrestling is the one thing we got to get figured out with the dissolution of Pac-12 wrestling. Yeah, you know, we got to figure out what's next for them.
Because that's
going to be a challenge.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about wrestling because that is a premier program we have here. I mean, we're wrestling at NCAA tournaments now regularly. Like, we are expected now with that program to be up there amongst the top 20, 25 best in the country. But so much is changing, especially wrestling on the West Coast. Just doesn't seem like there's another conference that we could jump to on the West Coast that limits those spending for travel budgets. What do you hear? What is Coach hearing about where that program is going to be in 5 years?
Yeah, it's interesting. There's almost a limitless number of different stories out there about what that might look like. So us, Bakersfield, and Oregon State are kind of in the same boat. We believe the Big 12 is going to probably take a look at us and say, we'll take care of you for a while. But that means the Big 12 conference gets a little bit too big.
Yeah.
So my dream scenario would be that would break off into two conferences. There's enough schools now in the Big 12 with their additions of Arizona State that they can have their own wrestling league without affiliates. Mm-hmm. And a part of me would rather take all those affiliates like Northern Iowa, Wyoming, Northern Colorado, et cetera, Air Force, and we all kind of have our own wrestling-only conference. The problem is some of those schools have been in the Big 12 for 30 years.
Yeah.
You know, if you're Air Force, that's all they've known, and that's hard to leave, and they don't want to. So it's going to have to be the Big 12's decision about whether you want to have a 16-team league, or do you want to have one league with 8 and another league with 8. There's a lot of things to shake up there, and a lot of politics, a lot of pride, a lot of institutional egos, a lot of head coaching egos.
Could you share maybe as much as you can a little inside baseball onto how those discussions go? Like how does a university talk to other universities about conference alignment and breaking off? How do those discussions happen?
We pick up the phone and talk. I mean, it's as simple as that. So, and our coaches, the interesting thing about wrestling, like there is a tight-knit brotherhood with wrestlers and wrestling coaches that they, unlike other sports, they really look out for each other. So nobody wants to give anybody an excuse to drop this sport. And the easy thing to do, we don't have a conference, so we'll just start dropping. Well, there's not very many of us left in California, so we have no interest in that avenue. So I think that's why the Big 12 Lifeline is there, is they see the importance of Cal Poly Bakersfield and Oregon State continuing to exist. Yeah. Stanford's not going to wrestle in the ACC. They've got ACC wrestling. Good luck.
Yeah, that's hard.
Have fun with the travel, guys. Enjoy.
Yeah, that's hard.
Being in the Big 12, it's going to be bad enough, but we're going one time zone and occasionally 2 time zones. They're having to go 3 for every single thing they do.
Yeah, it's incredibly
So
difficult.
I would rather have our situation than theirs, to be honest. But we do have some things to figure out. How are the duels going to work in terms of, we go on the road, we need to have 2 matches.
Yeah.
So who are our travel partners going to be? Northern Colorado and Air Force makes a lot of sense. So let's go to Colorado. We'll get 2 matches, Friday, Sunday, and we're home. We miss 1 day of class. That'd be great. Mm-hmm. When we go to Stillwater, Oklahoma, what's that going to look like? Who's our travel partner there? And is it going to be multiple flights? So we got a lot of things to sort through.
Do you guys talk to the athletes about this? 'Cause I know a lot of times from the outside, there is a perception that universities make these decisions solely by administrators and the athletes are kind of left to the side. Is here at Cal Poly, are you actively talking to the wrestling athletes about this?
Yeah, to be honest, not very much. I think our coach does.
Okay.
I talked about it. I mean, I spent 30 seconds on it in a team meeting a couple weeks ago with them. I don't think they're really too concerned about it. I think that they just want to compete. And they also know no matter what we do, there's going to be a very competitive schedule put in front of them. We're Pac-12 champions a year ago. These guys are really good. They know we're not going to be wrestling against no-name schools. We're going to wrestle the best, and that's all they want, and that's all they want us to make sure that we do. And the other thing, too, about wrestling, as opposed to some other sports, they're not really worried. We can brag we won the Pac-12 championship. That's not really what their goal is. Right? Their goal is national. Their goal is how many points can we score nationally? How many All-Americans can we get? Because it is still truly an individual-based sport.
Yeah.
Probably more so than any others we have at our university. So we want to help them get to that point. How can I help you become an All-American? And that is the thing that they track on the most.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I want to ask about basketball. I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of my sport. I want to just men's and women's side talk a little hoops for a second. We can pivot to another sport. I mean, we can start with the men's side. Recently with you guys hiring Coach DeGeorge, you talked about in the press conference. It was a pretty drawn out coaching search. I mean, what are you excited about most for Coach DeGeorge and this upcoming season for them? Yeah.
Probably the most excited thing I want to see is just progress, the step forward. I see it in practice. Mm-hmm. Like I know this is going to happen. I see how we're practicing. I see what we're doing, and it's exciting. It's different. Like it is a very different mindset. Bringing analytics heavy onto the court is different than what our guys are used to. So they're gonna have to try to figure that out. I became sold on Coach DeGeorge. I went and watched his teams play a couple of times at Colorado Mesa, and their style of play blew me away. Mm-hmm. Like they're good. They were really good. Obviously, they were a top 5 team in Division II. It'll be. I want to see if he can transfer all of this to Division I. I believe he can. Otherwise, we wouldn't have brought him in. Yeah. But I believe he fits very well with our university. I always believe in fit. I fit. I believe in what we do. I believe in our culture. I believe in our values. I think he does too. And he likes coaching the high academic young man, the person that's here for school first. So for him, the highly analytical mind of a student is going to fit very well with his style of play. The smarter you are, the better it's going to be, because you have to anticipate so many things and have freedom. That's the other thing that I think is going to be a little bit different. Our players are going to have freedom that they didn't have prior to him coming in. You get to make the decision. You're zipping the ball up the court. You get to decide where it goes, and you have to process that information very, very quickly. As you guys know, you've got a hundredth of a second to figure that out, where you're going to put it. And the way, the speed in which we're moving is also very, very. I think our fans are going to love it. I think our fans are going to really love the style of play. You're putting all your eggs in the 3-point basket. I totally get that. But if you're making layups and dunks in addition to threes, so my favorite stat on his team at Colorado Mesa was they were dead last in the United States in the number of 2-point field goals they made. But they were first in the nation in 2-point field goal percentage, which means what? It's all dunks and layups. They're all scoring at the rim. So yeah, they're shooting a lot of threes, but they're getting a lot of secondary break points right at the rim. And that's what I saw when I saw him play. I don't think they took a single shot between 4 feet and 22 feet. I don't think I saw a single shot in that game. It's either a layup or they're shooting a three, and they're doing it quick. UC San Diego in our conference plays a little bit like that, and they won a lot more games than they should have last year with their talent. Well, they make shots. Doesn't matter if you're talented or not. You put the ball in the hole, you're going to win. And I think that's the mindset that he's going to bring. So I'm super fired up to see this, to see how this works, and to see how long it takes us to make progress towards being at the top of the league. It's not going to happen overnight, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, in my mind, I envision that, committing to that extreme level of play style, because that makes up, we all hear about all the time in terms of recruiting at Cal Poly, the academic bar, it's
For sure.
It's such a high bar. So you're making up, you might not be able to get, top 100 player in the country. But at the same time, you're getting players that fit how you want to play. Honestly, reminds me, back, and this is way before me and Nick were here, but with the football, running the triple option, were you here when they were
I
running
was.
Okay.
It was a blast.
Yeah. Like, you're recruiting, a certain type of player, probably you're not getting a 290, 300 pound lineman. You maybe someone a little bit shorter, more mobile, that's overlooked by like a USC or UCLA.
Smaller and faster.
Exactly. I mean, does that, kind of play into your calculation? At all like that?
Might be. He is not set on positional play. I think that's another fascinating thing about it. If you ask him, who's our center, it's like, we don't have one. Who's our point guard? We don't have one. He expects all 5 players on the court to be able to post somebody up, and he expects all 5 to be able to bring the ball up and distribute the ball. So he's going to play a style that is very unusual for most of our people to see. So, yeah, we probably won't. We're not going to have this 7-footer most likely. We're going to have a lot of 6'6" to 6'9" guys that can move, I think is what he really wants, and guys that can be a threat outside as well as a threat to, take a single step drop after he's posted somebody up and make a layup. He wants if you're 6'5", you better be able to post somebody up. Now, there's a downside to that, and that's defensive side of the ball. We still got to guard UC Irvine with their 7-foot monsters. But he feels like I'm willing to give them some 2-pointers here and there as long as we're doing our job on the other side, because they won't be able to keep up. So he's like, that guy will score some points, but he's going to be a defensive liability against us. So they're going to have to make a decision. And are they willing to just post us up all night long and shoot 2s while we're down there shooting 3s? And he believes eventually they're going to have to pull that guy out. And then they're going to try to play a little bit better defense against us, which is going to penalize our offense. We'll see. It's fun. It's fun to. The strategy is really fun.
And it's something new. And I want to touch on just the hiring process from your end of here at Cal Poly. What is your and the athletic department's kind of mindset when you're going out to hire a new coach? Because coaching turnover happens is a natural thing in athletics. Sure. How does at Cal Poly look to go get another head coach?
So, I've always heard this line, every AD's got a short list in their pocket for every sport. I don't know that that's entirely true, but this is something that I've been thinking about. Obviously, our program wasn't doing well. And about halfway through the season, I sat down with Coach Smith, and we had a conversation about how it was going, and, we agreed that this was going to be the end. So that gave me a lot of time to do some research. I'm not going to go talk to people whose season isn't, there's some bad things that happen to people that go out there and try to get jobs while their seasons are still going on. So I'm not going to be one of those guys that's out there doing a full-on search while my coach is still here. I just think that's unethical and don't want to do that. But once I felt like John was in a good place and he knew what was happening, that gave me at least opportunity to start making some phone calls, maybe not talking to coaches directly, but I'm talking to, athletic directors. Tell me about your associate head coach. Tell me about your head coach, whatever it might have been in terms of where we're looking. So I got on the phone and I just started calling people and and obviously I had some names of people I was looking West Coast, who are the Division I programs with doing the best in Division I, and what's their coaching staff look like. So I start, looking at Stanford, looking at San Diego State, looking at St. Mary's. Who do they got? And I'm looking at who are those great Division II programs that maybe that coach hasn't had a chance yet at Division I, but they've. So Mike, he was one of the probably 5 or 6 Division II coaches I was looking at and had talked to. And the more we talked, the more we aligned. And the more I felt like his unusual style of play, I say unusual, he'd get mad at me for saying that.
Different, non-traditional.
Unique. You know, I heard somebody call it kitschy.
Kitschy.
And it was meant derisively, obviously.
Okay.
It meant it is oh, yeah, he's got that little kitschy offense. Didn't that offense beat you a couple of times last year? Like, it was really insulting. But I think the thing about Mike is, after talking to all these people, he just kept rising. You know what I mean? Like, he's a Midwestern guy like I am, so he's very humble. He's not going to come in bragging about, I did this, I did that. So I got to pull things out of him about, okay, tell me about your time at Colorado Mesa, how I saw, I can see the record.
Yeah.
Tell me about your first year. It's like, oh, complete turnover, and I had to start from scratch, and no history of winning here. And then you look at his record, and by year 4, they were consistently winning 28 games, won 32, I think, last year. I mean, and his prior job before that, Division III, same thing. Started with nothing and then just won. So I do think he's going to do that for us. The process, though, is so much time on the phone. Like, every night I'm on the phone. I may be watching a basketball game, but I've got my earbuds in and I'm talking to somebody about somebody else.
Okay.
I'm fielding a lot of calls from people. So many coaches want the opportunity. Everybody thinks they can be a Division I head coach, so I'm hearing from high school coaches and whatnot. And it's like, guys, there was one in particular I'm thinking of, and he was just hounding me. And I just said, you need to be a Division I assistant coach.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to be a Division I head coach, you need to come in and be a Division I assistant, or at least get in college. Like, I can't get a Division I job from high school. I said, no, you cannot.
Yeah.
But I'm really good. You are. You seem really, really good. But you need to latch on.
Yeah.
With a college somewhere, and he's still trying to figure out how to do that. And those are some hard conversations, and I don't want to have many of those. Those are really hard conversations to have with people. But anyway, in terms of what I think Mike's doing so far with this, obviously there's a learning curve for Division I. He's picking it up quick. The rules are a little different in terms of NCAA, the recruiting rules and all of that. The recruiting calendar is different, all of it. But at the end of the day, he's just recruiting and coaching 18 to 22-year-olds.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're Division II, Division III, whatever. Like, you're still doing the same job. He's just got a little better athlete right now. Mm-hmm. He's got a little better student right now at Cal Poly, and he's relishing that. Like, when he goes into the gym, he loves it. I go in there and I see smiles.
Yeah.
If you guys come to practice, you see guys grinning ear to ear. They're getting coached up. They're getting coached hard. They seem to embrace it. And I think it's going to lead to great success. It starts with a culture, and we're getting that handled.
Yeah, definitely. Coach George is a new coach coming in, but this year we have a new coach. Heading to retirement with Coach Rozier last season here. If I'm not mistaken, only women's soccer coach we've had in our Division I history.
That is correct.
Yeah. Just looking back on his really long time here, what are some of your favorite memories that stick out to you about his tenure?
Me begging him to continue to coach and him laughing at me is going to be one of my favorite conversations. He is just a legend. He was soccer before soccer was cool, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? So he was the club coach here. He was a Division II coach here. Then he was Division I. Like, he's the only coach we've ever had. And I go back to that comment. He's now coaching daughters of former players. So that's how you've been somebody a long time, when I'm coaching the daughter. But I think that says a lot about his character as a teacher, as a man, as a leader, all of those things. That he's just a very calm, cool, collected individual. When you watch him on the sideline, he doesn't get too riled up. The highs aren't too high, the lows aren't too low. And I think sport needs that.
Yeah.
I think if you're going to be a really good coach, you need to be able to even things out. If you get really good, don't read the press clip. We got to keep you humble. If you get really bad, we got to build you up. And he's always doing those things. If I had a daughter, I would love for her to play for that man. I think he makes them better in every respect. They're better citizens, better women, better leaders, better whatever they're going to be in life. They're going to be better at it because of Alex. He's going to be a hard one to replace. We're already kind of going through some lists about what that's going to look like. I'm going to ask for his input when the time comes. I've told him that. He's not going to be on the search committee. That would be kind of weird. But at the same time, I'm going to pull him aside and say, hey, these are some of the names. Tell me what you know.
Yeah.
And he's going to have some opinions about some of them, but I'm going to listen to what he has to say about them. I'm not going to be too worried about style of play. That's so important in soccer. I want to play this way. I want to play that way. We're going to hire the best coach. And we did that with Ogie Kennedy on our men's soccer team. And everybody said, what style does he play? I said, I don't care. What do you mean? I can't believe you don't care. I don't care. What I care about is getting the right leader who can recruit and build a program. And he's proven to be able to do exactly that. And I think they've figured out the style that he plays is what they want to play. It's pretty fun. They possess the ball really well right now.
They do. Yeah, they do. Do you have athletics have some sort of ceremony giving away thing maybe in the future later in the year for Coach Crozier? I assume that's on the horizon.
Whatever we do, he will hate all of it. I can promise you that. I'm sure we'll roll out some things. I don't know. We'll probably buy him a rocking chair. I don't know exactly what we're going to do. But I promise you he's going to hate every single bit of it. And we just got to get him powered through. And, you know, I want so badly for him to win the league and get to the NCAAs in his last year. I just think it'd be tremendous. He's won, I don't know, 10 conference championships.
He's
in
the
30
winningest
years.
coach in Big West.
And it's not close. I would love for him. You know, we won the league last year, regular season, but didn't get to go to the tournament because we lost in the conference tournament. I would like him to notch that last thing and be able to go out just on the highest of high.
Yeah.
And we'll see.
Yeah. His teams always seem to finish strong.
Yeah. Well, we just need to get to the tournament and see how we do. We got upset at home by Santa Barbara the other day, and that's a tough loss.
Yeah.
But we got to rebound from it, and we'll see how we do tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of alluded this with Coach Crozier and, you know, Ogie Kennedy and Coach George. You're finding the right leader. Like, how much of it, being a Division I head coach, is it the balance of, you know, you have great strategy, but also being, you know, a great leader of an organization, not only for your players, but, you know, you have a whole coaching staff behind you and, you know, people, support staff, things like that. Like
A face of a university,
exactly.
too.
Yeah, I think it's all of it. You know, I don't get into the weeds on how they play, even though I just did on Mike DeGeorge. I really try to find the person that fits best with what I think our program needs and is going to be the best leader and best recruiter for us. I kind of feel those other things will take care of themselves. And plus, it's about who you hire.
Yeah.
Like, who's your assistant coaches? Who are you going to bring in? It's one of my favorite questions on an interview. Is they tell me about, you know, how you would envision filling out a staff. And the answers I like are, well, I'm not the best at whatever it might be. So I'm going to bring in a guy named Timmy who's a good yin to my yang, if you will. He's the one that can make me better because I know I'm my weakness. I love somebody who acknowledges I'm not as good as other people at this one aspect of the job. So I'm going to bring in somebody who's going to push me and make me better. Maybe recruiting. I'm not the greatest recruiter. I'm not the greatest salesman, but I'm bringing two people that can recruit the hell out of people. Great salesman. All right, terrific. That's great. I need you to recruit. I need you to be really good at it. But that's just kind of one example, I think, of what we try to look for and who's going to be better. And then somebody that acknowledges the academic issue. We actually had a coach we brought in for an interview. It's been a long time. This will go in my book someday. But actually sat in my office and said, "Okay, I got to ask you a hard question. What's a dummy major? How do I keep kids eligible?" I'm like, you literally read nothing about Cal Poly. No, you literally read nothing. Like if you could go on the website and look at the roster and see. Yeah. There's great diversity of majors. Like just let's say it's basketball. Just look, there's out of the 15 guys, there's probably 12 different majors. Yeah. You major in what you want, and there's no such thing as that. No, at our
have that.
This is somebody that's been in one of those universities I was talking about that claims to be high academic but admits anybody's a student. Yeah. And they were used to everybody on my roster majors in criminal justice, San Diego State's criminal justice, communications, whatever it might be, that is the major added for athletics. Yeah. Sport management in some places. And those are classes you don't have to take a math class. We don't do that. No. What's your dummy major? Okay, I'll take you to the airport right now. We're about done. So those searches always kind of take their own personality and just kind of go where it takes you. Like, what are you looking for? I'll let you know when I see it, kind of thing. And, you know, the last one we did, Mike DeGeorge, we saw it pretty quickly, and the president was The president's always involved with these. Once we get down to a smaller number, and he was fully embracing, the Mike George concept of kind of how he leads, how he teaches, how he views himself as a teacher, and how he views the student athletes as students.
Yeah.
They're here to learn. It's like, love it.
Yeah. I know we're about time, but if we have one last question, thank you, of course, for coming on. You alluded to a book you want to write there at the end. I have to ask this last question. What would be the last chapter of that book in regards to Cal Poly athletics?
That's a
hard-hitting
boy,
one.
that is
But it's very, where would you put it?
that is a hard-hitting question.
Would you put Cal Poly, maybe the growth of Cal Poly athletics since you started to right now?
Yeah, I would say it would be about operating within the framework of the university to build something special. One of the things I'm proud of is we've never been a rogue department. We've never tried to deviate from our university, where we operate under what we call institutional control and presidential oversight. So we don't operate with autonomy, and I think some programs do. They're just almost completely independent of the university. They do their own thing. We don't do that. So I think it would be how to find success while operating within the framework of an existing successful university. There'll be some stories in whatever book I write, and it'll be really, really funny, I can tell you that. But it's, this place is very special to me. And I know it's special to you guys. I know it's special to all of our students. Very few people leave here not loving it.
Yeah.
And whenever I retire, whenever I leave here, I'm going to love it. And I'm going to still come to games. And I've already told our coaches someday when I retire, I'm going to be the guy up in the stands yelling at you. They just laugh at me on that one because they know it's not true, but it's just kind of fun to be. I'm just going to be a fan now. And I look forward to that day. But, I would miss the student interactions. I would miss working with our student athletes. You guys know. I mean, they're just like any other student on this campus. They just happen to run fast or be tall, or they throw a ball really hard or whatever it might be. But they live their lives like the rest of our students are, and I don't ever want to lose that. I hope when you guys were on campus, you lived in the same floor as student athletes.
I lived next to student athletes my freshman year.
Have classes with them. Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah.
Just normal people that we just go out with and have fun.
Correct. They're just like you, and I love it even more if they don't tell you they're a student athlete in the first sentence out of their mouth, that you get to know them first as people, and then you're on the baseball team. I didn't know. I think that's a terrific revelation. Other campuses have now developed these athletic dormitories and other things. They have their own dining area. I don't want that. I want our student athletes to be as close to a student as they can be, and they just happen to have to go to practice in the afternoon or go to weights in the morning. Other than that, they're in the same class you guys are in. They're in the same dining hall you guys are in. They're eating the same food. They're studying at the library. They're doing all the same things you guys do.
Yeah.
Love that. Never want to lose that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you, Coach, for your time. I know we're running right here, right at this end point, but
appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
We want to thank Don again for coming on with us. I thought that was a really cool interview. Number one, that tennis complex, the new tennis complex, is so cool.
Sick.
It's so sick, and it's like something that I feel like we haven't had. I mean, baseball kind of has it with their complex, but that's a state-of-the-art, kind of top of the line across the whole country athletic complex for tennis.
Yeah, I had some construction workers coming in and out of there throughout the interview, some friendlier than others.
Yeah, we'll probably cut it. We cut it from the interview, but there was a construction worker that walked in mid-interview.
I thought Don was about to throw down with him.
I thought Don was too. Don was pissed. And he just was just yelling and interrupting everything.
I think that's all we have time for today. If you like what you hear, check us out on any preferred streaming platform, kcpr.org/podcast, and the sports section on mustangnews.net/sports.
You can follow KCPR on Instagram, TikTok, or Twitter at KCPR913, and Mustang News Sports at CP Mustang Sports on Instagram and at Cal Poly MN Sports on Twitter and TikTok.
For more information about Cal Poly Athletics, check out the official Cal Poly Athletic website at gopoly.com.
Ride high
and go Stangs.